Welcome to this bite-sized, memorable look at the world around us. I'm Jim from Nature's Work. This window on nature is taking a closer look at spring flowers. What we'll cover are profiles of 7 flowers that you're likely to see across the UK, characteristics of ancient woodland indicators, and an introduction to the term phenology. So in the early spring, the light and heat from the sun increases rapidly as the sun begins to arc higher in the sky. The ground absorbs the heat, and which in turn stimulates and triggers spring flowers to break from their winter dormancy. Woodland plants take advantage of this before the canopy forms, blocking out their sunlight. These early flowering plants are known as ancient woodland indicators and are, apart from in woodlands, found in hedges and other such damp and shady places. They have certain traits in common, being poor competitors and also an ability to spread and form mats and large patches on the ground through a mechanism of clonal growth. Phenology is the study of the timing of natural events, such as when the first spring flowers appear, when the first leaves form, or when you see your first butterfly, or when you see your first swallow, or when you hear your first cuckoo. It's essentially a nature's calendar, and climate plays a huge role in these sensitive biological responses to the environmental conditions. And they've been recorded over centuries by farmers and the dates of harvest, and also wine growers from the dates of their wine harvest, and is it a good year or not. Incidentally, the Woodland Trust have created an online portal for people to get involved with the Citizen Science Project and upload their own recordings of when they see these natural events occurring in their local area. So it's worth uploading that, and that information gets utilised by and monitored by a research team at Cambridge University, and it all goes to looking at the effect of climate change on the British wildlife. The primrose is one of the first and earliest spring flowers that you're likely to see, and its name, prim, comes from prime or first. It'll flower from February right through till May, and it's got beautiful pale and sometimes dark yellow petals, these notched petals that you see there, but with a much darker yellow-orange centre. And you see the leaves there, they're kind of crinkled leaves, bit like a cabbage leaf in a way. And they were once widely harvested, and they were considered a cash crop even until the 70s. And millions of these flowers were harvested and sent to markets across the UK, London and Birmingham. And they've subsequently had a decline, but it's thought not to be related to the harvesting, but due to changes in the environment or changes in the soil and spraying and so on. They're found in calcium-rich environments, so they're a good indicator of calcium and nutrients in the soil. Wood sorrel, you'll likely find this flowering from Easter. So from about April time, the flowers are probably less noticeable in a way than the leaves, which are this light green, kind of heart-shaped. There's 3 of them, and they're like a shamrock, but they're heart-shaped. But they are edible, and they have a sour kind of lemon or apple flavour to them. So they're, again, they'll carpet areas of damp woodland and kind of mossy areas where there's lots of leaf litter and so on. They've got beautiful white flowers. You can see those heavily veined petals as well. So you've got those kind of lilac or purple veins. At night, both the flowers and the leaves will close up and fold up, and the leaves, you can see, they fold up like a fan. So that trefoil shape will disappear at night. The wood anemone was once called the wind flower, and its name comes from Greek meaning daughter of the wind. It's one of the earliest spring flowers, and you find it from March right through till May, and it's a good indicator of an ancient woodland and prefers damp, shaded soils. The flowers have 6 or more sepals. They look like petals, but they're strictly speaking a sepal, an outer protective cover really for the petal. And they open in sunlight, but they're more likely to be slightly more closed during cloudy times, cloudy days. So in a bright open environment, you'll see them really broad. But these large showy flowers are sterile, so they don't reproduce through the flower, but they do spread through underground stems known as rhizomes. It's a very slow growth. It's estimated about 6 feet of growth will take 100 years, so incredibly slow. The lesser celandine is an early spring flower from February right through till June, so a good chance of seeing these. You've got these bright star-shaped yellow flowers opening broadly in bright sunlight and closing up in cloudier days. And you find carpets of and mats of their dark green, these glossy leaves which are heart-shaped, especially in damp and shaded woodlands. It's got an old name, pilewort, and it was used to treat and cure the condition of piles, as its roots, they have a tuber, which is like a storage structure, which was meant to resemble human piles. And this old belief is from something called the doctrine of signatures, which is an old concept which follows that if a plant resembles a part of the body, then it was used to treat that part of the body. Another flower you'll see from February right through to May is the early dog violet. You've got this striking purple flower with 2 upper petals and 3 lower petals. And its flower has got a symmetry like an open book. So it's a mirror image flower. It's a scentless plant, and that's where the name dog comes from. So dog means common or scentless. The leaves are heart-shaped and usually hairless. And the plant spreads by overground runners called stolons. The leaves are an excellent food source for the caterpillars of the endangered fritillary butterfly. And if you look really closely, the flower has a spur at the back, which is slightly darker in colour to the petals. And that's one of the key characteristics of the early dog violet. The wild daffodil, it's the Welsh national emblem, or Cennin Pedr. It's also the flower of St. David. Usually flowering early spring, so March, April time, and were once widespread across England and Wales. In Wales, there's a tradition of known as flowering the graves on Mothering Sunday, which was done with the wild daffodils. But the wild daffodils have suffered a mysterious decline in the last 150, 160 years. It's not thought to be due to picking, but there's other environmental conditions which have meant the decline of this. So they're not as common as they once were. The last plant we'll look at is Lords and Ladies, otherwise known as cuckoo pint, cuckoo flower, or parson in the pulpit. And it's a strange flower which is first seen from January when tall or narrow green spikes emerge from the ground, and then the leaf unfurls to this pointed arrow-shaped, spear-shaped leaf. And inside each leaf spike is an unusual flower stem, as you can see there. We're bearing a purple flower. And this flower is a compound flower known as a spadix. And it looks a bit like a fireworks sparkler. And the spadix is a spike of minute flowers around a fleshy axil. The male flowers towards the tip and the female flowers are below. And the flower attracts flies for pollination. And if you got closely, it's a poisonous plant, try not to touch it, but it's got a smell of rotting flesh, or some people say it's like a urine smell. If you'd like to know more, why not join one of my courses? If you prefer to guide yourself, then I have a superb range of flower cards created as playing cards and top trumps designed to make learning fun. Please press like if you've enjoyed this presentation. Feel free to write any comments. See you next time for more windows on nature.